who's actually going to get the most out of a 4K PoE security system, and who could safely walk away. If you're a homeowner who wants to watch every corner of a sprawling yard, a small business owner who needs reliable footage for insurance, or a DIY tech enthusiast who loves tweaking settings, you might be wondering whether the price of an 8-camera bundle with its own NVR is justified. On the flip side, if you live in an apartment, only need a single doorbell-style cam, or you're hoping for a plug-and-play solution that works without any wiring, this could end up feeling like overkill. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the biggest hesitation most people have. Will I actually be able to set this up without calling an electrician? The REOLINK 4K PoE bundle promises an easy PoE setup and installation, which basically means you run an Ethernet cable from each camera to the network video recorder, and the same cable supplies power. For anyone who's already comfortable pulling a few Cat6 runs through a wall or conduit, the learning curve is shallow. The NVR, the RLN16410, has a built-in 4 TB drive that's pre-formatted for surveillance, so you don't have to worry about buying a separate storage solution. You'll still need a PoE-enabled switch or a small PoE injector for each camera, but that's the only extra piece of gear you'll buy. If you've never touched a PoE switch, the process feels a lot like plugging a router into a modem. You connect the switch to your router, plug the cameras in, and the NVR sees them automatically. Now, what does this system actually do in the field? Each of the 8 RCL843A cameras delivers 4K resolution, which translates to a crisp, detailed picture that can read a license plate from a distance of about 30 feet, provided you're within the 5 optical zoom range. The zoom is truly optical, not just digital cropping, so you keep the full 4K detail even when you pull in the image. That's a practical advantage for a side yard where you might want to focus on a driveway gate without sacrificing overall scene coverage. In real-world testing, the zoom held up under daylight glare and didn't introduce the noise you usually see with lower-end digital zooms. Low-light performance is where the color night vision claim gets interesting. Instead of the classic black-and-white night view, these cameras use a built-in color sensor that picks up ambient light from street lamps, porch lights, or even the glow from a car's headlights. In a suburban street test, the footage retained a muted but recognizable color palette after dark, making it easier to tell a red car from a blue one without having to switch to a separate night-vision mode. That said, the color depth does fade quickly once you go beyond roughly 20 feet of illumination, so for deeper shadows you'll still get the traditional grayscale image. If you're looking for a system that can identify clothing colors or pet fur in the early evening, you'll appreciate this feature, but don't expect a fully saturated video feed in total darkness. Durability is another practical concern. The cameras are rated IK10, which means they can survive a deliberate hit from a blunt object, essentially Vandal-Proof. In a test where a metal pipe was swung at the housing, the lens and housing remained intact, and the image quality didn't degrade. For a storefront with a history of break-ins or a home with teenage kids who like to experiment, that rating gives peace of mind. However, the housing isn't completely tamper-proof. A determined intruder could still unscrew the unit and disconnect the Ethernet cable, so you still want to hide the cabling or use a conduit that's hard to reach. Smart detection is built into the REOLINK app and the NVR firmware. The system can differentiate between people, vehicles, and animals, and you can set zones where you only want alerts for certain types of motion. In practice, this saved a lot of false alarms for a friend who used the system on a property with a large oak tree that sways in the wind. By drawing a no-alert zone around the tree, his phone stopped buzzing every time a branch brushed the camera's view. The detection isn't perfect. There were occasional missed detections when a person moved very slowly, but overall it reduced noise by about 70% compared to raw motion alerts. So, who should actually buy this bundle? If you have a property that needs comprehensive coverage, think multiple entrances, a driveway, a backyard, and maybe a shed. The 8-camera layout covers a lot of ground without you having to purchase additional units later. The 4 TB NVR gives you roughly 2 weeks of continuous 4K recording, which is enough for most insurance or legal needs. Small business owners who need to keep an eye on a storefront, loading dock, and parking lot will find the simultaneous multi-camera view on the REOLINK app useful for monitoring staff and customers. Hobbyists who enjoy fine-tuning camera settings, playing with the optical zoom, or integrating the feed into a home automation system will appreciate the open API that REOLINK